It is currently about 10 minutes after 5. Please rise as Pastor Robert Beeman leads us in the invocation, followed by the pledge, which will be led by Miss Llewellyn.
Shall we bow, please? Father, we thank you, God, for just another day. We thank you, God, for your loving mercy, kindness that is bestowed upon us. We thank you, God, that your mercy is renewed every morning, God, that you have given to us. We ask you, God, that you lead us and guide us in what we need to be doing. Not only that, God, but give us, God, a humble spirit as we do this. We ask you, God, for the leadership, God, of this city, God. We'll consult you in everything that needs to be done. You said, God, lean not on our own understanding, but acknowledge you in all our ways. And you said you shall direct our pathway. We thank you, God, for the leadership we have here. We bless them, God. We not only bless them, but their family also. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Please join me in the pledge. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, this is the time in our meeting where we typically take public comments. Citizens who citizens who desire to address the council on any matter may do so. Simply ask you step to the podium, state your name and address for the record, or raise your hand on the virtual platform. Please keep your comments to no more than 3 minutes. And as you know, no discussion or final action will be taken. We have a couple of folks who have signed up. First is Mr. Keith, is it Gilbertson?
Gilbertson.
Yes, sir.
I am Keith Gilbertson. I live at 13757 Dandelion Trail in Elton, but it's very close to Temple.
That doesn't count.
So I'm here. I want to talk about city-sponsored spiritual events. And we just had one yesterday at a park, and there's another one coming up in early April. And I do believe in a spiritual realm. I believe that there is a godly influence realm, and then there is the other. And I see these events as in the other category, not of God. And I'm not an expert on this, it's just my opinion. But does the city need to be in this business? I don't know if we're sponsoring it, but at least you're advertising it. And I don't like it. And I think the majority of voting citizens would probably follow me on this. It's not our business. It's not necessary for us to be in the spiritual growth and development business. We've got plenty other things to work on. The other area is we traverse West Adams regularly, daily. And when you go west at 2271 along the sides of the road, now I don't see our West Temple guy here, but when you drive along that road and it starts at, I don't know, picked up once a month, starts out with little heaps of brush, and pretty soon there's more brush, and then there's more heaps, and now there's mattresses on top of the brush and commodes and who knows what all kind of stuff is piled alongside West Adams out there. Now, I don't know what the plan is for this thing, but something needs to be changed because the advertisement that's put before citizens traveling to Temple Lake Park, it's ugly. Somebody needs to think about it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. You know, if you'll get an address or an approximation to me or the city secretary or somebody, we can get somebody out there. It's just, I mean, obviously that's not our practice. So it will, we can get that picked up soon.
I'll call.
Okay. Yep. I appreciate that. Thanks for bringing that to the city's attention. Next up, Mr. Lytle.
Alan Lytle, 504 Paseo del Plata here in Temple. First, let me thank the City Council for their undying dedication to the City of Temple. For those of you who didn't go out and look at the website tonight, these ladies and gentlemen spent, I'm sure, a good long amount of time reading a 410-page packet for tonight's meeting. A good bit of that packet had to do with the first item on the agenda, the annual financial report. City of Temple, staff, and of course our council have done an excellent job in maintaining the city's budget and finances. They've, according to the report, the auditors didn't find anything wrong. I think they call it an unqualified opinion. I like that. It means there's nothing wrong. And most folks don't realize that the city of Temple has over $100,000 budget, 100,000. 100
A day.
I'm sorry. Let me add a few zeros to that. $100 million annual budget. It takes a humongous amount of work, and most people can't understand that. I don't understand it myself. I can't imagine spending that kind of money daily. But tonight you're going to vote on about $8 million worth of expenditures out of that budget. And most folks can't even understand that. You know how long it would take for most people to spend $1,000 a day to spend $8 million? 25 years. And so people don't understand how big these numbers are, and that our council members are not accountants. They're not financial people, but yet they spend their time helping the city make sure that our money gets spent correctly. So I thank you for your dedication and for all your effort, and of course to the staff. Without the staff, you couldn't get there. So it's a little depressing to see such a small turnout for tonight's meeting. There are over 80,000 people in Temple. 1% of 80,000 is 800. 1/10 of 1% is 80. And there's not even 80 people, not even 1/10 of 1% of the city even bother to come to and pay attention to what happens in our city government. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Alan. That's very much appreciated. And all the credit goes to staff, and a lot of that credit goes to Miss Bernard and her staff. So,
I'll have to pass that on to Ms. Probelski.
yep. And would you come back next week or in 2 weeks and give that same speak? Just we'll just put you on public comments every time. No, seriously, we thank you for that. But from council across all of staff, we're dedicated and understand the importance of the money. And because that's not our money, that's the city's money and the citizens' money. So we all take that very seriously. So thank you for that.
Mayor, to add to that, the 1/10 of whatever the percentage was that are not here, don't look at the dump trucks and everything that our public works department just talked about that's been purchased, the cost of those machines and what it takes to maintain them. But the citizens want the services that those machines provide.
Absolutely. Okay, very good. Moving on, speaking of what Mr. Lytle was talking about, item 3 is what? Oh, I'm sorry.
Can you hear me? Hello? I lost audio. Hello?
Are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Just barely. Can you hear me now?
Just a little bit better.
Yes, sir.
Okay, sorry about that. Getting through these technical issues. Normally, I like to be there in person. I'm actually going to address 4G. I know that comes up during your consent, but I'm not going to be able to stay because I've got another appointment. The only thing I wanted to bring.
Have you stated your name and address and I just missed
Oh, I'm
it?
sorry. CJ Grisham, Temple, Texas.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, no problem. So yeah, I'm just talking about 4G. I don't know like what went into settling on this company. I just personally have problems with giving business to a California company when the state has mandated that nobody in the state of California can come here to Texas to spend money here, to engage in our commerce, to engage in our beautiful city. We're not allowed to, or they're not allowed to come here because of they don't like our politics. And so I would just ask that I know the GIS licenses, there probably aren't that many, and I don't know if this was a bidding issue or not. But going to California when the state is openly hostile to everything that we Texans stand for, I just don't feel comfortable knowing that my tax money is going to California. And so I just would ask y'all to reconsider that and see if there are any other options prior to spending 6 figures on that. And that's all I had.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Grisham. All right, is there anybody else on the virtual platform? Okay, sorry about that. All right, we'll move on now to item 3, which is to receive the City of Temple's annual comprehensive financial report for the fiscal year ending September 30th, 2022. Ms. Bernard.
Yes, thank you, Mayor and Council. I want to thank Mr. Lytle for his comments. And before I start with this, thank Ms. Melissa Probelski for her leadership in this project and leading the accounting and finance department. Just background, according to the city charter of the City of Temple, an annual independent audit is required to be made of the financial records of the city by a certified public accountant selected by the city council. The City of Temple has engaged the firm of Brockway, Gershbach, Franklin, and Niemeyer, PC. And tonight, the annual financial report for the fiscal year ending September 30th, 2022 will be presented by Christine Wells, CPA. Ms. Wells is a partner with the accounting firm of Brockway, Gershbach, Franklin, and Niemeyer, and will be available to answer any questions you may have. Ms. Wells. And also tonight we have Mr. Niemeyer, also a partner in the firm too here.
Good evening. Thank you very much for your time. It's good to see everyone again. Tracy's already introduced me, so we'll go ahead and skip that part. I really just wanted to hand in my presentation after you got up and spoke. You covered everything I needed to. Thank you. It's not often you run into someone who appreciates the financial aspects of things. So with that, let's get started. As Tracy said, you guys have an amazing finance team. A few of the ways that we know that you guys have an amazing finance team is that they've received the Distinguished Budget Presentation Award for over 27 years and the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting for over 41 years. So this lovely document gets turned in and rated, and they receive an award for it for the last 41 years. Huge accomplishments there. This year, they had some extra challenges. We implemented a new lease standard. They worked very diligently on that, and as well as incorporated a new entity, the Temple Revitalization Corporation. That is also part of the financial statements as well. So with that, what do? Well, as auditors, we spend a lot of time with the finance team and they prepare a lot of stuff for us to look at, but we verify balances as of year end, September 30th, 2022. That means that we verified, confirmed, checked, vouched over $1 billion in assets and $776 million in liabilities. And then we test the activity that happens throughout the year. That means that we do sample tests of a lot of this, but we confirm as much revenue as we can. We test payroll all the way through retirement benefits, and then 105 million of operating expenses, and then 121 million of capital expenditures and debt payments. Another part of our audit that we do is actually called a single audit, separate from the financial statements. We test all the grants to make sure that they are in compliance with the grant agreements. The city received $7.2 million of grant funds this year that were tested, and then 412,000 of state grant funds. With that, we also help get the report together. Melissa and their team do a lot of the heavy lifting, but we review and assist with it, and then we get to issue just an opinion, and our opinion is unmodified, meaning that your financial statements present fairly and free from material misstatement, which is what you were looking for. So it's all downhill from here. So when we start to talk about the numbers, it's always good to look at the context, paint the picture of what happened in 2022. The theme for 2022 is growth and expansion. The city is approaching 90,000 in population, and that's 7% growth in the last 5 years. The increase in available jobs brings residents here, and thus more people are moving here. Local economy, increase the number of building permits, both residential and commercial, for a second year in a row. 2021, we had a 15% increase in building permits. And then on top of that, 2022 had a 15% increase on top of that. So lots of home building in 2022. Home building and commercial, let me be specific about that. New businesses, we've got several new businesses coming to town. Meta, FedEx, HEB has a freezer expansion being worked on, PPG and Reynolds. Overall, when we talk about revenues, the city had an increase of 14% in the charges for services. We had about an 8% increase in property tax revenues, 15% increase in sales tax, and the city received about $14 million from the state in grant funds. We were able to spend a little bit this year and we saved some for 2023. We'll get into that. Expenditures, governmental expenditures increased 14 million from prior year. And then the water sewer side increased 2.6 million over prior year. We'll also dig into the expenditures and see why those increased a little bit. Bottom line, revenues exceeded expenses by $25.9 million. Now, if you're not an accountant, that means that you're in the black. Not in the red, you're in the black, so that's a good thing. So big impacts to the balance sheet. Capital assets, the city invested $75.8 million in capital assets throughout the year. Building, streets, infrastructure, you name it, that is $75.8 million. And then the zone invested another $35 million in capital. Many projects going on throughout the city. If you drive around, you can see construction going on everywhere, and the city doing their best to keep up with needed streets and infrastructure. How do we support capital assets and all these purchases? We've got to issue some bonds to help along the way. Governmental side, we issued 95 million in bonds, of which 52 million is for the zone, all the projects going on in the zone area. And then 23.1 million in bonds for the water sewer fund. We're actually going to dig into that just a little bit. And then two other big things that really hit your balance sheet is the pension liability and your OPEB liability. It's something that can vary from year to year depending on how investments have done, and it lags a year. So we look at 2021. 2021 was a fairly good year for investment. So what happens is the net pension liability for TMRS decreased 10 million. And it also decreased 6.5 million for the fireman's pension liability. I can't promise the same thing next year. 2022 didn't have as good of investments, but for this year, we'll take the decrease in the liability. And OPEB, the benefits that happen after you retire, retirement, healthcare, that pension liability also decreased. Sorry, not pension liability. OPEB liability decreased to 800,000. So when we look at debt issuances, why are we issuing debt? What is it for? Almost 40 million of combination tax and revenue bonds were issued for transportation improvement, building improvements, public safety equipment, and drainage improvement projects. The 52 million in the zone that we talked about, those are for streets, roads, utility improvements, airport improvements, all within the zone area. Another 2.5 million in limited tax notes. This is to purchase sanitation, street equipment and vehicles, as Susan was referencing earlier. These trucks are very, very expensive to purchase, and they're doing their best to keep up with replacing old trucks and then being able to purchase new for the growing population. The 23 million of taxable utility revenue refunding bonds, this actually refunds old bonds. So it's the 2014, 2015 series. What they're able to do is get new debt at a much lower interest rate. And what that does is it ends up saving the city $3.4 million over a period of time in interest. Just another way that the city is financially and fiscally responsible, making sure that they're able to, if they do have to take out debt, to be able to get it at a very reasonable price. Revenues. Start with water and sewer services. It has jumped quite a bit in 2022. I always like to show the history. 2020, quite a warm year. These revenues can be highly influenced by rainfall, how hot it was. Those are the two driving factors. So for 2021, we actually had decent rainfall. 2022, I think we all know it was a very long, hot summer. Not a lot of rain. So consumption was up 23%. Plus, we're adding to the population. That was an increase 5% of customer accounts. So it's almost a $7 million increase in water sewer revenues. Governmental services. This is about 21% of the total. Steady growth from the dip from the pandemic. Crossroads and other venues are very busy. This also picks up drainage revenue, recycling, and garbage. Again, you have more customers, so you're going to pick up more revenue from more customers and the continued growth. Also, the airport was very busy in selling lots of jet fuel, and you'll, I'm sure, notice that in 2022, gas prices were a little bit higher. The city maintains a profit margin on top of that, and so we see lots of revenue from jet fuel. Next up is property tax. This has also grown a little bit over the years. This is really driven by increase in tax base, more people within the area, so more homes, but also in the assessed value. I know some people say, oh, my taxes are higher, but actually the tax rate for Temple decreased from 65 cents to 64 cents. So it's really just an increase in the assessed value and then just more customers. The purple, sales tax. We are really good at spending money. So sales tax comes back to the city. This is 18% of the total. What amazes me here is if you look at 2017, sales tax was 21 million. So it has increased 50% in 5 years. Again, we are very, very, very good at spending money. And to go along with why sales tax has also increased, when building permits go up, you're buying more materials, thus more sales tax. Yellow is franchise fees. This is pretty steady over the last 5 years. 13% growth. This is grants and contributions. This is a small change from the printed presentation that you have, but grants, 2020, we saw a bump in 2020 from coronavirus funds. Spent the remainder of coronavirus funds in 2021, and then you guys received another lump of 14 million, and you were able to spend some of it in 2022. We're saving some of it for 2023. The yellow up there also includes an $8 million contributed capital that's being put towards infrastructure as well. Grants and contributed capital get grouped together there. And the very top is all other, also consistently rising from year to year. This category can include, like 2017 has the bend of the river when you guys picked up that property. This year is a little bit higher just due to higher interest rates. When you guys are able to invest, you receive more interest income. So that's overall revenues. This is on a governmental basis. We get into expenses now. So starting with the water sewer, again, these expenses, this is about 28% of the total, increase of about 11% over the last 5 years. This is mainly due to an increase in personnel, a little bit of increase in depreciation. With a growing population, you guys are having to add staff in all areas to be able to support the growing population. So that's part of that. The teal color is public safety. This is your second largest expense. It's about 25% of the total. An average increase of 2 to 3% over the last 5 years. General government, we've got 13% of the total. Average increase of about 6% over the last 5 years, consistent and steady. Purple is culture and leisure. Also growth there, the bump this year. Other contracted like maintenance contracts for different parks. And in all these categories, the grant funds that you guys received, you were able to pay retention pay. And so each category has a little bit extra because of being able to pay retention pay to your employees, so a little bit higher salaries, and also adjusting for cost of living. Inflation was a bit crazy in 2022. So blue, highways and streets. That increase is solely from retention pay. And then sanitation, obviously that one's going to grow too with a growing population, needing to add more staff, more pickup, more routes. Green on top, all other. This is about 7% of the total. This includes airport. So that's going to be a little bit higher because gas costs more. So you see higher revenues, but coordinating, you also see a little bit higher expense with fuel costs. So where does that leave us? If you took an accounting class, you know assets minus liabilities should equal, we call it net position in government, but what we have left is our summary of net position. And I wanted to show all the columns here. The first thing I want you to notice is that it rises each year. That means that the city is doing positive things. You're not going backwards, that there are revenues in excess of expenditures. But the neat thing here is to see the blue. The blue is what's invested in what's invested in capital assets. You take all your capital assets, subtract out the related debt, and this is what's left, 195, almost 196 million. The green represents the unrestricted portion. That is funds left over to pay day-to-day expenses. If the city were to shut down, they could pay almost 2 months of expenses. Not that that's going to happen. But these are healthy, very, very healthy net position. There's a little bit of a dip in 2021 in the green. We implemented the new lease standard, which rolls back into 2021. Like I talked about before with pensions, discount rate can have a big effect on the swing and the pension liability. So this year, the pension liability was 14 million. If we were to change that discount rate to 1% down, it would increase the liability to 48 million. And then if we increased it to 7.75, we'd actually have a pension asset. The same thing on the fireman's pension side. The liability this year was $12,750,000. 1% less, that liability would increase to 21 million. 1% higher, it would be 5.8 million. So big swings on either side if that were to happen. So it's very important to pick the correct discount rate. As I talked about, we implemented leases. This was no small feat for the city. Part of the project is just finding out where all the leases are. You'd be surprised what is in a lease, but airport hangars, land, buildings, copiers, golf carts, all kinds of things go into that. So the city spent a lot of time gathering all the lease information and evaluating each lease to make sure that we applied the proper guidance. The lease standard really pushes us to put leases on the balance sheet. So what happens on the lessor side, we end up putting a lease receivable on the books for 17 million. A big piece of this is the landfill. So we have a big receivable on the books, but we also defer the revenue. And as the revenue comes in each year, that will decrease. And then on the lessee side, where we leased some assets, the Axon body cam, copiers, those kinds of things, and the golf carts, those kinds of things, that results in a right of use asset, basically a capital asset on the books. That was a little over 500,000, and then a lease liability of a little over 438,000. And those will amortize off, one, as debt payments are made, but two, depreciation as the asset is used. Oh, my favorite part, to talk about the zone. The zone gets to do some pretty amazing things with the tax money that they get. What this graph represents is what they've invested in. They've got land, which is the green part. That's stayed pretty steady over the years, but the two big pieces are construction in progress and infrastructure. Construction in progress will ebb and flow based on what projects are going on, but we closed out several projects in 2021, which is why that balance is a little bit lower. But at the end of 2022, there's $53 million worth of projects in progress as we speak as of September 30th, 2022. But then the other neat part is that bright blue, the very tall line is 126 million. That's all the infrastructure that the zone has been able to produce. Again, just another facet of being fiscally responsible with the taxpayers' money. Questions? Again, Mr. Little gave my presentation for me, so I feel like I've just repeated myself, but I'm gonna hire him for next year.
I have a couple that are just super simple. I'm kind of embarrassed, but I don't know the answer.
That's okay.
So whenever you put up the grants and contributions,
Yes.
what's the definition of a contribution?
If
For an example.
someone were to donate land, or if someone were to donate money to put towards a specific project, it's money that the city received for not doing anything.
How much was that? Because I don't remember anybody really giving anything.
That was $8 million. There's in the water sewer fund to help with infrastructure.
Mayor, that had to do with our
Palmer agreement.
Palmer agreement.
Oh, yeah, $8 million.
But we also get contributions from TxDOT on certain, I can think some of the agreements, but we classify those as contributions too.
Like traffic count type revenue? or-
No, I can't specifically think of.
Like a donation of land or a donation of a project.
Right
that-
away or something.
It could be that, but it's more a donation that the city didn't have to pay any money for. So that's the reason it comes across as revenue.
Okay, well, I mean, that makes sense.
We had another EDA agreement that we had a small donation on too.
The land next to the library. The children's park to be.
You bought that.
As much as we would like
It was
for
a
everyone to just
donation.
donate the
There was
land.
a donation for part of it.
And this is probably more of a question for staff with the pension liability going down, which is strange. The contribution strategy hasn't changed.
Correct.
Would that be correct?
Correct.
Because, you read about pensions, especially municipal pensions, just
Right.
going bankrupt and people are ruined, et cetera. So that's very important that we
It
take
is,
care of
and that's
the,
a good question to ask. Unfortunately, with the way pensions are set up, it can ebb and flow
sure,
quite a bit based on how investments did for the year. They do their best to estimate what they think the assets are going to gain in the market. And if they miss that mark, it can really swing, which is why we looked at the sensitivity
Right.
there. And while I said that the liability went down this year because investments did really, really well in 2021, it lags a
Good.
year. 2022 may not be as good and it may go back up. The city is not in any danger of going bankrupt or anything like that as far as pension liability. But it is smart to keep contributions where they're at.
does it lag a year simply because you're just reporting on it sort of a year after the fact?
Right.
Because that's why it's lagging.
So, well, we would be doing our audit reports at the same time and then trying to get their information incorporated into here.
Right.
So like TMRS actually, it's not exactly a year. They cut off their calendar year end. So we look at January through December 2021, whereas fireman's pension, they lag a complete year behind October 1st to September 30th. So a little bit of a difference there. They have to get, and there are adjustments made for the lag, but yeah, it does lag a little bit behind.
Okay.
And those differences, what happens is they get put into deferred inflows and outflows and slowly come off the balance sheet. So while the pension liability decreased 10 million didn't go to the bottom line. It gets put as a deferred inflow or outflow. And then I think it's a 5-year amortization will come off the book slowly. So that way you don't have that whole change go directly to the bottom line every year. They try to peanut butter spread it out.
Yeah. Okay. That helps.
Helps with volatility, which is a better way to not say spread the peanut butter out.
I understand the peanut
Yeah,
butter.
but okay, well, yeah, we'll stick with peanut butter.
Our smoothing.
Yeah.
Yes.
I got it. You had me at peanut butter. Council, anything? No?
You are more than welcome to email me questions after the fact. I know you're going to read all of this and come up with something that you want to talk to me about. That's absolutely fine. You're more than welcome to email, ask any questions anytime.
Very good. Thank you, Ms. Wells. Mr. Niemeyer, thank you. As always, to our accounting staff. Tracy, you have any words you'd like to say, or I guess maybe you already did?
I did, but I'll just repeat them. Thanks to Mr. Niemeyer and Miss Wells, and also thanks to Melissa and staff for leading this charge of the finances and accounting department.
Yep.
Thank you.
I work very hard not to actually call out other cities, but I have meetings with other mayors. And they're, the easiest way to put it is they're always jealous of the city of Temple and the things that we're able to do. And you guys with BGF&N, y'all see lots of municipalities. And so comparatively, you know what I'm talking about. We're in a good spot because we have a good staff and, the kind of the overused saying of we stand on the shoulders of those came before us. Lots of good financial management over many years has put us here. So thank you for that to everyone. Okay, very good. I'll move on now to the consent agenda. All items that are listed on the consent agenda are considered to be routine by the city council and may be enacted in one motion. If discussion is desired by the council, an item may be removed by any council member and can be considered separately. We went through these during the consent agenda items during workshop. And unless something has changed, I don't believe we're going to pull anything tonight for separate consideration.
Did we want to pull item G for Mr. Grisham?
Would anyone like to, or is anyone prepared to address that?
Mayor, I can just let you know that Esri is the sole provider of licenses for the ArcGIS system. The ArcGIS system is really integral to lots of the stuff that we do, including 911 dispatch, our planning and development work, City Works software, which manages our public works parks. I mean, it would be an extensive undertaking to change from ArcGIS to another product. I don't even know if another comparable product exists on the market. And so Esri is the sole provider of that product.
Very good. Thank you. Based upon that, I don't see any need to pull it. Okay. Then council, at this time, I'll entertain a motion on the consent agenda, which is items 4A through 4P.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda items 4A through 4P.
I'll second it.
We have a motion by Councilmember Long. We have a second by Councilmember Walker. Council, please cast your vote. I'm trying. I'm seeing nothing. All right. Consent agenda passes 4 votes to 0. Moving on to item 5, which is the first item on the regular agenda. It's the first reading in a public hearing to consider adopting an ordinance authorizing action to amend the plan development ordinances 2017-4873 and 2017-4847 and allow for a conditional use permit with the development and site plan to allow sales of alcoholic beverages with on-premise consumption being 50% or less of gross revenue legally described as lots numbers 1 and 2, Block 1, Arbor Square, Phase 2, addressed as 11830 West Adams Avenue and 110 Morgan's Point Road, Temple, Texas. Mr. Chandler.
All right. Good evening, Mayor and Council. The applicant, Josh Pearson, is going to participate virtually. I believe his brother is also here to answer any questions that I may not be able to answer at the end here. And so just to draw your attention to what we're talking about here, Arbor Square is existing and under construction Phase 2 shopping center on Morgan's Point Road, and same developer, same owner. And so really what we're talking about for this aspect is primarily for an entertainment venue that I will show you in just a moment. Looking at the zoning, of course, the base zoning is general retail, and the future development plan calls for corridor mixed use within this area. And so a little bit of background in terms of what the developer is proposing on 2.4 acres of Lot 2, Arbor Square. It's a single building, 9,600 square feet, 2 stories. Ground floor would include restaurant, full bar, retail space with clothing, as well as pickleball paddles and other related merchandise. And that's because they're going to have pickleball courts. So that's one of the outdoor amenities. The second floor would include a members only dining area, administrative office space, and additional event space. So the amendment to the current plan development is triggered by the fact that the proposed building height is 30 feet. And so the current plan development allows a maximum of 25. So that would be part of the action today. Once again, 3 outdoor pickleball courts, outdoor game activities like beanbag toss, washers, et cetera, a stage area, and then also on the Arbor Square portion, there is a second phase of development that is under construction there, which will contain a gym. Parking of a minimum of 39 parking spaces for the new event venue, and then also additional notices were sent out to cover the entire plan development. And that's the maps that you've seen thus far. But we're going to focus now really just on the restaurant in an event space. This is a west elevation south elevation, and then east. And so you can see an outdoor dining area and preservation of large oak trees. And so here's the site plan. Once again, the additional noticing included the entire Arbor Square, but really for the conditional use permit, we're focusing on the new building, the 9,600 square feet, and really what's in the green square. And of course, that is Adams on the left, so rotated 90 degrees. And so the conditional use permit is for on-premise sale and consumption of all alcoholic beverages, 50% or less of total revenue. And this is not located within 300 feet of a church, public or private school, hospital. In fact, the closest protected use is 2,200 feet, and that is Lakewood Elementary School. And so here's the site, and of course, our water tower there in the middle. And to the east, you can see some of the construction that is currently happening for the gym that is part of the kind of the original Arbor Square retail. And so 16 notices were sent out to property owners within 200 feet. And 4 were returned in agreement and 0 in disagreement. And looking at the criteria in section 354 of the Unified Development Code for conditional use permits, you can see just in terms of compatibility, access, impact on the neighboring properties, staff has determined that all are in compliance. And so the staff recommendation consists of the following 8 conditions for approval. And that goes with the TABC requirements, compliance, our other alcohol sections, chapter 4, Code of Ordinances, section 5315 of the Unified Development Code, compliance with our performance standards, particularly related noise and glare, making sure that the lighting does not trespass onto nearby roadways and residential properties, that the conditions established in the previous plan development ordinances, that they still apply with the exception of the 30-foot change in height for the building from 25. And then allowing the Director of Planning and Development authorization to approve minor changes to the site plan, and that significant changes would need to return to Planning and Zoning and City Council. So Planning and Zoning Commission recommended at their February 6th meeting unanimous approval with the staff recommendation. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, sir. Council, any questions?
We very rarely have requests before us where there are no disagreements sent into the notices to abutters. It's nice.
I agree. Okay, if there's no discussion, then I will open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak on this matter may do so. Please step to the podium. Mr. Lau, go ahead, or raise your hand on the virtual platform.
Alan Lytle, Temple, Texas. Working?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I just have one quick question related to this as well as others like it. When you have on-premise consumption, what stops them from taking it off premises into their car and drinking on their way home?
It's a different Texas Alcoholic Beverage Commission license.
I understand that, but what stops these people? I go there, get you a beer, we'll get my car and back home.
Sure. Well, their license is
Functions.
dependent upon compliance.
They give it to you in a glass and they want their glass back.
Is there anybody on the virtual platform? Okay. Council, if there's no further questions, well, let me first close the public hearing. And if there is no further questions, I'll entertain a motion on item 5.
Mayor, make a motion for approval with the 8 conditions.
Second that motion.
We have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Morales. We have a second by Councilmember Long. Council, please cast your vote.
Sorry. Aye for me. There it goes.
Item 5 passes 4 votes to 0. Thank you. Moving on to item 6 is the first reading in a public hearing to consider adopting an ordinance designating approximately 194.7 acres of property located at or near 4750 Winland Road, Temple, Texas 76504 as City of Temple tax abatement reinvestment zone number 46 for commercial and industrial tax abatement. Ms. Myers.
Thank you. Okay, so Texas Tax Code Chapter 312 allows the city council to designate an area of the city as a tax abatement reinvestment zone if that designation is likely to contribute to the retention or expansion of primary employment or to act as to attract major investment within the zone that would benefit the property and would contribute to the economic development of the city. Council can consider designating a reinvestment zone and authorizing an abatement within that zone if at least 2 of the following criteria are met. You can see those listed on the screen. Staff has received an application from HEB LP to abate a percentage of the increases in the taxable value of certain real property located at or near 4750 Winland Road. So tonight, this agenda item is regarding the first reading of an ordinance that would create a tax abatement reinvestment zone for the project. Council will be asked to consider authorizing the actual tax abatement agreement for the project at your next regular meeting on March 16th. A little bit about the project. The background is the HEB is considering expanding its regional distribution center campus in multiple phases, including without limitation, the construction of a frozen good warehouse of approximately 330,000 square feet, along with associated parking, drives, racking, automation, and other fixtures. They plan to invest at least $200 million in the construction and installation of these improvements and will create at least 100 new full-time jobs. Staff does believe that the project meets the criteria in the city standards for tax abatement, including that the project involves a minimum increase in property value of 300%, that the project will make substantial contribution to redevelopment or strategic economic development programs. The project would have high visibility, image impact, or is of a significantly higher level of development quality. This project can serve as a prototype and catalyst for other developments of higher standards, and that the project stimulates desired concentrations of employment and commercial activity. The project would also expand the employment base, attract major investment, and contribute to the economic development in the city as required by Chapter 312. So again, tonight, your action item is simply to consider designating a tax abatement reinvestment zone, and then further action on the abatement agreement would be considered at your next meeting. I would be more than happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you. Council, any questions for Ms. Myers? I think most of us are familiar with this. We've gone over it a number of times. No questions? All right, then at this time, I will open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak on this item may do so. Step to the podium or raise your hand on the platform.
Alan Lytle, Temple, Texas. Thank you for answering one of my first questions was, what is a tax abatement reinvestment zone? I appreciate that. This one is numbered 46. Does that mean there's 45 others somewhere in the city?
Yeah, it would be the 46th zone that's been created by the Temple City Council. Doesn't mean that there's still 45 currently in existence. There is I believe, a 5-year window, but throughout the course of time, there have been 45 others designated at some point.
Okay. And then it mentions 196 acres. Is that all going to be this HEB project, or is it empty land for another organization to come in and receive a tax abatement to do that?
The 194 acres is all property that's under the ownership or control of HEB.
Thank you.
I suppose if they sold the property to another entity and that entity approached for a tax abatement application, that could be considered, but I don't believe that's their intention.
So the point would be that if they sold a portion of the property, that portion would not, the tax abatement would not follow that.
The tax abatement agreement would not, but the designation of the tax abatement reinvestment zone
Right.
would, because that's a geographic designation. And it's a precedent for entering into a tax abatement agreement. So you're not binding yourself or obligating yourself to approve any tax abatement application in the future, including the one you'll consider in a couple of weeks. But without the designation, you can't do so.
Can't, exactly.
And this is on their current campus.
Right.
And,
No,
and
I
they
know.
intend to, any presentation I've seen, they intend to keep developing that property.
Oh, I'm not implying differently. I'm just adding that information for Mr. Lytle.
Yes, sir.
I'm Dana Farrar, 306 Mitchell Drive. I just have a quick question. I mean, we've seen a lot of development in that general area, industrial, Winland Park. Have we considered what the issues could be as far as fire protection, water? I mean, has all that been brought forward?
Sure. Yeah, that's part of them actually being able to build the facility and getting an occupation permit. So, yes.
Okay, I was just curious. I
Yes,
wanted
sir.
to check.
Nope.
Thank you.
You bet. Anybody else?
Do I have to get up there?
Can you make it?
I'll try. Okay.
Can we just give them a mic?
Or we could bring the microphone. Most of it's about the recording. Yeah. Make you walk up there and we could just bring the microphone to you.
I'm Milton Hensley, 301 Metro Drive. I didn't quite understand what this property is going to be used for.
So right now they're putting a huge industrial freezer on it.
A freezer.
Yes, sir.
How big?
I think if I remember, I think it's 325,000 square feet.
325. It'd take me a while to cipher that.
Yeah. Their plan is to use that.
HEB has become a good neighbor. for
They
Temple,
have
Texas.
been a good neighbor for years.
They're just getting finished with a huge structure out there. And I would dearly love to get to go inside that thing after it is in function.
I believe that's the freezer, the one that's under construction right now.
Is it open yet?
No, sir. No, this is just creating the tax abatement around it,
I
but
want
it's
to
under
go
construction.
look inside that thing after construction.
Me too, sir. Maybe they'll invite us.
You better bring your coat. I mean, it goes to something like,
You remember when they started that thing out there and it was just so small? And now it is gigantic. HEB is a good neighbor.
they are.
And a refrigerating unit. That's amazing.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
You bet.
It will help the freezer departments within the HEBs stay stocked. That's
Well,
part of the point of it.
This new unit that they are finishing, it's all going to be digital.
It's robotic.
Oh, I want to see that.
Okay. We'll see if we can get you on a tour.
Sign me up.
Okay.
I think the other exciting part is 100 jobs. Good job.
Yes. Yeah,
for
good
our
job.
local residents. You're right.
Yeah, and that's not, like I said, that's not their last project at their campus here. So they are good neighbors. You're right, Mr. Hensley. Is there anyone on the virtual platform or anybody else that would like to speak from the audience? If not, then I will close the public hearing and entertain a motion on item number 6.
I'll make a motion. I think I speak for most people in Texas that I love my HEB.
Well
And I'd like to
said.
make a motion to approve item 6.
I second it.
We have a motion by Councilmember Walker and we have a second by Mayor Pro Tem Morales. Council, please cast your vote.
Mine won't do it. Oh, there we go. No.
Toggling very well. There it is.
I think it's mostly user error up here. I don't think it's
Yeah.
the system.
Yeah.
Mine worked
No
this
doubt.
time.
You hit the wrong button.
I'm good. It's Judy holding us up now.
Okay.
Okay, here we go. Item 6 passes 4 votes to 0. Moving on to item 7 is to consider adopting a resolution approving the final plat of Sanders Farm Phase 2, being a 14.522 plus or minus acre, 1 lot, 1 block residential subdivision in the 4th replat of a portion of Lot 1, Block 1, First Baptist Temple West Campus in the city of Temple, Bell County, Texas, with Bell County Tax Appraisal District number 508576, and approving a developer requested exception to the Unified Development Code, Section 8.3.2C, related to the payment of park fees. Mr. Chandler.
All right, hello again. So yes, this is purely just about the exception to the park fees. This is for an apartment complex that you all have seen not too long ago, First Baptist Church property formerly. It's the area shown in the dashed line in black with all of the other plats that have been approved on this overall development previously. But we're just talking about the Sanders Farm Phase 2 shown there in black. And once again, it's 14.522 acres for a 290 unit apartment complex. And the age restriction was removed with the most recent plan development amendment. Our development review committee reviewed the plat on September 22nd and deemed it administratively complete or filed on January 10th. And then, of course, city council is the final authority because of the exception requested. And this is merely for a 50% credit, essentially for all the amenities that they would provide at the apartment complex. And so here's the final plat. And the exception language is in Unified Development Code Section 832C. And the bottom line is they are proposing $1.6 million worth of amenities. The park fees would amount to a total of $65,250. So they get basically get a 50% discount on that to be able to provide 1.6 million. So pretty good return on investment, I would think. And so staff is recommending approval of the final plat, but specifically it's the exception that is before you. Happy
Thank
to
you.
answer your questions.
Thank you. Council, any questions for that? No?
I do have a question. This 1.6 million though is just for the use of the people in the apartment complex.
That is correct. And
So were they to have paid the park fees, you or I could go and walk in the park.
that is absolutely correct. So, yes,
But there is a neighborhood park there, right? Von
Right.
Rosenberg is.
Yes, Von Rosenberg, they're the trail system along P Ridge
Right.
that actually the Fresh Meadows, the residential
Right.
development.
Thank you.
is-
Yes.
That's
They-
another
And they
recent.
paid into that trail.
Yes.
Yeah, great. Never mind.
Mhm.
Thank you.
And also just keep in mind that the park fees are intended to address the demand for parks and recreation facilities that the development itself generates.
Generate.
So if the development itself is meeting,
Right.
a good deal of those, then staff feels like it's appropriate it's not waiving the fees, so there'll still be park fees
Yes.
available for investment in the public park system as well.
Yes, thank you.
Any other questions? If there being none, and this is not subject to a public hearing, so council, I'll entertain a motion on item 7.
Make a motion to approve item 7.
I'll second that motion.
Item 7 passes 4 votes to 0. Moving on to item 8 is to consider adopting a resolution authorizing a construction contract with Emerson Construction Company, Inc. of Temple for the construction of Poison Oak Realignment Phase 1 in the estimated amount of $7,198. $7,198,910.50.
It's at 50 cents. It's really important.
It'll make all the difference.
Good evening,
Ms.
Mayor
Sessler.
and Council. We're recommending a construction contract to construct Poison Oak Road realignment from Highway 317 to just past Charter Oak Elementary School. We're currently, as Poison Oak exists, it has 2 90-degree bends, and we're going to form a S-shaped curve to straighten out that alignment. Additional improvements also include drainage conveyance, a 10-foot sidewalk on the north side, utilities, street lighting, landscaping, and I think most importantly, a traffic signal at Highway 317. We had 5 very competitive bids, with the lowest being that nearly $7.2 million. When Clark Associates and staff recommend awarding to Emerson Construction. Do you have any questions?
It's amazing to see all the bids come in under the OPC. That just doesn't happen anymore.
No.
The light that's going to be at 317 in Poison Oak, is that a state light? Or is that something the city of Temple will have to pay for?
It's included with the construction contract.
Okay.
It will be our responsibility to pay for it and maintain it in the future. They have given their permission for us to install it, though. Which
What-
is not as easy as it should be.
I mean, if it's going on a state highway, why is Tex not responsible?
Because we have a population of 50,000 or more. And so once you reach that threshold, you're required to maintain traffic signals in your community.
Okay. Very good. Counselor, any questions for Ms. Sessler?
This realignment is really good
It is. It's
and
needed.
long overdue.
It's a terrible curve.
Terrible curves, dangerous.
All right, very good. Then if there are no further comments or questions, I'll entertain a motion on item number 8.
May I make a motion for approval?
I'll second it.
Have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Morales. We have a second by Councilmember Walker. Council, please cast your vote. Item 8 passes 4 votes to 0. It's also nice that this project has gone to a local engineer and a local construction company. So congratulations with that. And, that is the end of our regular agenda. Thank you all for attending. It is 6:17 and this meeting